Alright, okay, good evening everyone. It started for today's session. Okay, so as usual, quick disclaimer, everything we'll be covering in today's session is solely based on education purpose, right? And they do not directly translate to any form of trade signals or investment advice, okay? And of course, be aware that trading involves risks, okay? So with that said, let's jump into the market. Welcome to the new week. So for those of you are pretty new here, what we do is I'll run through some of the events to take note, run through some of the charts here to share with you some of what I'm looking at, what are potential setups, opportunities that you can keep an eye on. Then we'll take a couple of questions to see if you guys have any questions regarding the markets. We'll talk about it, and then we'll wrap it up from there, okay? So with that said, let's take a look at what are some of the events for the week. Okay, today and tomorrow, basically Monday and Tuesday, there's not much things that's on the table. But later part of the week, starting from Wednesday, we do have a couple of important data. Okay, so on Wednesday we have the RBNZ. So for me personally, I'm not gonna be really trading the New Zealand. I think during the RBNZ rate statement itself, there are two things to note, right? One is during the Asian session, so liquidity is low. The other thing here is the Kiwi itself is not a very popular currency, right? So it's also low in liquidity. So during a high impact news like that, often we'll kind of witness slippages in the market, okay? And it's not definitely going to be in favor to actually trade this news, right? So I'm going to be suggesting that probably you want to avoid trading the news on RBNZ. Okay? And on Wednesday evening, we do have the US core CPI and of course CPI year on year. So that's definitely important. Okay, so what we are seeing over here is previous release was 3.2. This coming month, we're expecting, or I say general consensus here is at 3.4. So the market is actually expecting the inflation to pick up a little bit. Okay, and of course, if you take a look at last week labor market data coming from NFP and unemployment rate, the economy in the US seems very resilient, right? And that kind of put aside, I would say the Fed is now no longer in pressure to cut rates, right? Because the economy is still resilient. There's no reason for it to aggressively reduce rates. And of course, this week we have the CPI, right? So if CPI decides to maintain somewhere around 3.2, 3.3, I think there's really no pressure for the Fed to cut rates. Okay, especially if CPI pick back up, towards 3.4, 3.5, then obviously rate cut will be pushed back, will be postponed. Now, however, if the CPI comes in, lower than 3.2, then we might see the opposite, right? We might see the dollar actually weaken a little bit, and that put the Fed back into the thought process of, inflation is really indeed coming down. Should they consider cutting rates to really have a balance in terms of the economy side, right? So this coming CPI is going to be crucial too. Okay, I think CPI data up to now, it's still very important. Definitely going to provide some volatility in market. So do keep an eye on that. Same day in the evening, we do have the Bank of Canadian coming in as well. Okay, last Friday Canadian data, not very positive, right? The data comes in pretty negative for the Canadian side of things. So again, that might put pressure for the Bank of Canada to consider an early rate cut. Okay, so keep an eye on potential surprises from the overnight rate statement. Okay, now on Thursday, we do have the ECB coming in as well. Okay, and to end off the week, we have a little bit on the US core PPI and such, right? I think that's not like the key focus, right? So we have a couple of things coming in. So just be aware of some of this news here if you are trying to trading the related pairs. Okay, good. So with that, let's jump into the charts. Starting off with the dollar index, right? So over here, what I'm looking at is some short-term weakness on the dollar itself. Okay, yes, last Friday we have pretty strong NFP data coming in. But the charts, or I would say the price reaction, seems to suggest that short term we may actually see a little bit of a downside. Okay, to at least kind of complete this three wave here, right? Then maybe from there we're gonna get a push back up. So short term, if we can get another corrective setup here, we have a sell trade maybe going into the later part of this week. And if the market comes back towards 103.7 area, then that would be the area to look out for a buy trade. Okay, so for me, dollar index this week here, we're looking at short-term sell, and then after that, the outside if the market react nicely around that 103.7 area. And of course, going into the euro, that's going to be the opposite side of things, right? What we are seeing here is we have a nice little reaction off the low at 1.07. Okay, and if you can get a corrective pullback, then of course we will expect one more push back up. Okay, so kind of invert. Then on GBP, kind of also pretty similar to the euro. Okay, kind of correlated in a way as well. So short term, we're expecting a little bit upside here, but of course this may be a temporary kind of a pullback, and then after which we're expecting a bigger move back down, right? So this week we're probably looking at some of the internal moves. Or we can call it a pullback, right? We're basically trading that retracement, trading a pullback. Okay, so GBP USD over here, we're also looking at short-term upside. Okay, Aussie pretty much the same. Okay, if you can get a pullback here, then we'll be looking at upside. Okay, so basically that's the zone. So same thing, right? Very similar pattern in the major pairs right now. Impulsive move. If you see a corrective structure, upside in the short term. Okay, kind of in line with the dollar index too. Okay, so we're kind of getting some kind of nice confluences, and we do have the CPI coming in on Wednesday, so that kind of built in together too. Okay, so pay attention to those majors. Dollar Canadian, nothing much on the table. Basically, I would just suggest to stay neutral, avoid this pair entirely because it's basically in a range bound environment. No clear patterns, no clear direction. Definitely no setups that we can look up for. Okay, so dollar CAD, probably leave it another week. Come back maybe next week itself. Same thing here in the dollar yen, right? So basically the market is just moving in a range environment, nothing there, remaining patient for now. Come back another week. Okay, so this two, nothing there. Gold itself, I'm neutral as well. Okay, last week we did get a little bit of a momentum push to the upside, but that can't end off a impulsive move, right? Overall, so the take here is give it time, see if you can get a corrective structure. If you can, then of course moving forward we'll be looking for buy trade. If the market decides to just reverse back down, then short term we'll be starting to look for sell. Okay, so overall for gold, just be patient a little bit while see how the market is going to develop, then only we come back and make a decision on it. Okay, same thing here in terms of crude oil. I think overall, yeah, some of this pair you basically just want to be patient. Okay, wait for a clear pattern before we kind of commit to it. So yep, dollar CAD, dollar yen, gold, WTI, there's really nothing there. Okay, S&P, short term here we're expecting a deeper pullback, not the clearest structure of all. But internally, what I'm seeing here is this is 1, 2, 3, may have completed that as a W. Okay, this may be a reset, so we may be seeing another 3 internal move down to complete this WXY. Okay, so short term here, we're expecting a pullback. Okay, I think overall that's going to be a healthy pullback as well, right? Because the market has been moving up quite extended. Okay, so a healthy pullback is quite common. So right now, short term, we're expecting this. Now, to me, there's no clear setup, right? So even though I'm kind of expecting this to do a pullback, I don't see a very obvious opportunity to get involved in the sell. Okay, so for that reason, we'll probably just wait until this pullback is completed, then we'll look for the buy. Okay, but we'll see, right? Maybe midweek we get a nice little setup here, then we can still take the short trade to the downside. But as of today, there's really nothing there. Okay. Then we have the yen pairs over here. I'm actually involved in both the pound yen and the Aussie yen. Okay. Right now I'm in both of this sell. We'll see how it goes. The reaction as of now is not the best. But again, I can't understand that Monday market sometimes we can't get a little bit of a fake move. So we'll see, right? Anyway, we have our stops in place. Pound yen here, what I'm looking at is this may be the first push down, a correction. Okay, so overall my take is that as long as price is still below this swing high, overall the structure seems to still suggest that we can get a downside move, right? To kind of complete this as a 1, 2, 3. Okay, and of course, if I kind of bring it to a slightly higher time frame, we're still expecting that deeper pullback anyway, right? Because this entire structure here seems to be a crawl following a little bit of an impulse correction. So, that pullback towards this zone here is pretty acceptable. Okay, so that's where I'm still looking at the sell. Let's see how it goes. Okay, of course that's not the most ideal reaction that I want. But as long as I mentioned, below the swing low, we'll see how it goes. Okay. Same thing here in Aussie, not the best reaction. I'm also in the sell this, right? So we kind of have both the yen pairs on the downside. But this little reaction doesn't look ideal, kind of like a V shape. Okay. So this one here, I have my stop above. So see how it goes. If it of course breaks above that, then we'll get out of it. We'll relook at it. But overall, I'm also expecting downside. But of course, this can easily go back up, retest the top before the bounce, right? So this is kind of a channel structure that we're looking at. So we'll see. Seems like the Aussie is pushing up, right? Overall, I think the risk side seems to be gaining strength, right? So just see, right? But of course, you have not in that sell, then I would say just stay neutral for now, because this reaction is definitely a V. Okay. Next we have the pound odd. So pound odd over here, I'm neutral. Okay, the market is testing this 1, 2, 3 extension, basically completing this as a structure. But we don't get a confirmation in terms of whether the market is going to bounce or the market is maybe developing a crawl, right? So if you're going to develop a crawl, it's going to take some time. See whether we're going to get an aggressive push back up, okay? Whether we can look for the aggressive buy trade or wait for the confirmation before we take the upside. Okay, so pound odd here, just going to be neutral at the moment. Not really interested in the sell because from the overall perspective, this can be a pullback. Then after that, maybe an upside, right? So just gonna be patient a little while. Nothing much. EuroCAD as well. EuroCAD over here is a V, so we'll wait. If this forms a correction, then of course we'll be starting to look for an upside. But that takes time. Okay, so this week unlikely we're gonna get anything on Euro Canadian. Then we have BTC. BTC kind of broke that swing high. Okay, so we'll probably need to reassess a little bit. But this move doesn't look very impulsive. Okay, so my take is still not a clear buy opportunity yet. There's still that chance where we can still get one more push down before the up move, right? So not the clearest of all. Probably you just want to be patient. Because we are kind of testing this high, right? If the market breaks above it impulsively following a pullback correction, then obviously we'll be bullish on things, right? But for now, it hasn't really break that. This can still be a corrective structure, so we'll see. Okay, so some of this move here probably will need to wait until like midweek towards maybe end of the week to see how price is developing. Some of it is obviously nothing much is going to happen within the week. We'll probably wait until next week. Some of those, pretty near term, right? Maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, we'll probably get something. Okay, so the major pairs are the ones that I think you can keep a closer watch. We might get something maybe towards the end of the week. For me personally, the pound yen and the Aussie yen, we'll see how it goes. I think by tomorrow, we'll probably see the reaction. How to manage these two trades here, right? Accordingly. S&P potentially as well, but as I mentioned, to me, I don't think there's anything. We'll see midweek how things develop. Okay, so overall, I wouldn't say there's a lot of things right now on the table, but we'll see. Okay, again, the markets will develop in the next few days. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so very quickly, let me take a look at some of the questions that you guys have over here. Okay. First up over here, I see from Emmanuel, right? The development on pound odd seems to be a double bottom testing the fib extension. Yeah, in a way, yes. Okay, but for me, if you are looking to catch and buy the bottom, it's a bit risky, right? So I would say if if we see a bounce like that, a V bounce, okay, ideally we also want to see it break this high, then a correction. That would be a much safer buy trade, okay, that I might look into. But this one here, of course, you can just keep going and then break this low, and then there will not be a double bottom after that, right? So the double bottom here is very, very early stage, okay. Dollar Mexican on a downtrend seems to be in the fifth wave of an ABC correction, a daily. Dollar Mexican. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Yeah, to be looking at counting waves here is very tricky. Yeah, I wouldn't really see this as a very nice little 5-wave structure, right? Yeah, but again, dollar Mexican here, if you're looking at the trade, I would again be only suggesting selling the dollar Mexican because the interest differential is quite high, right? You wouldn't want to be buying this pair, because if you buy this pair, you're going to pay that interest, and the swap fee is going to eat into your profits very, very quickly. Okay. So dollar Mexican here, definitely only interested in the sell side of things. Okay, and if you kind of zoom in, this pair itself is not, it's not nice in its pattern. Okay, because that's how the nature of some of this exotic pair is, right? So I would say your direction definitely bearish. But again, you need to be clear in terms of like what's the reason to execute your trade, right? So we do see a little bit of like corrective here and there, but not the best of all, right? So this trade here, this pair here, I would not personally look into like normal trading, unless you want to do kind of a longer term carry trade idea, looking at the downside, then yeah. Okay. So there are still some opportunity that you can look for the downside. If I go to the higher time frame, you can see here. Maybe a little bit of a pullback if you take some fib from obvious low to high. But potentially also testing the 618 already, right? Pretty close, right? So I think the downside may not be very attractive at the moment in terms of dollar Mexican. Okay, yeah. So that's my take. Okay, we take a look at the Euro franc. Let's say Euro CHF, yeah. Okay, Euro franc seems to be developing a little bit of a pattern, like looks like a crawl. Okay, so my take is definitely not a sell yet, but you do not want to be buying into this pattern, right? Ideally, if this does a correction, then you look for the buy, it will be better. Okay, which means you wait for this to finish its pattern, and then it forms a correction here in 3, then you buy around there. That would be better. Okay. Alternatively, of course, you can see this as a crawl, and then you start to look for a counter trend. Okay, that would be the direction in general, okay, for Euro franc. Yeah, the market seems to be extended quite a bit as well. So maybe, you can see it as 1, 2, if you want to put it, this can be a 3 development. So this can be coming back eventually as a wave 4 and one more push. Okay. So yeah, that's my take on Euro franc at the moment. Aussie New Zealand seems to be having a crawl, expecting a correction. Yeah, I think, I was looking at this briefly as well. Okay. Definitely not a buy into this pattern, right? You wouldn't want to buy into this. Yeah, so if you are looking for a potential counter trend, you can consider some kind of a breakout trade here. Okay, you can consider something like that. So if the market kind of break below the level around 1.0915, you can put your stop above it, and you can just put the target maybe somewhere there. Okay, the risk reward is not that most ideal, but you can manage along the way, right? Okay, you can even extend it a little bit, maybe to this structure here. Okay, but of course, the risk reward is not the best of all. Okay, yeah, but you can somehow try to squeeze out about 1:2. Okay, now this is not a trade I'll be personally taking. If I'm gonna take it, I might want to see some kind of a break first and then pull back. But Aussie New Zealand is generally not a very volatile pair. Okay, so yeah, you're right in looking at this, right? So I would say Aussie New Zealand, you can start to look for downside. Okay, in terms of indices, I think we talked about the S&P already. Okay, in terms of the A50, seems like we are turning a little bit into, okay, I'll put this as a swing point. Seems like the market is doing a little bit of a pullback here. Okay, and if that pullback is going to be corrective overall, right? Okay, if this pullback is going to be corrective overall, then we can actually start to look for upside. Okay, this is A50 here, China A50. Hang Seng, okay, probably just need to adjust this a little bit, but I think overall, okay, this is still looking as a potential three-way fuzz. Yeah, so something like that. Okay. So wouldn't be looking at a sell here, right? I would say you probably just want to be patient and wait for the buy instead. Okay, so wait for it come down and then look for the buy. Okay, so that's on Hang Seng. Australia index, yeah, probably a pullback eventually, right? So this seems to be doing a little bit more of a pullback right now. We do have this pattern here as well. Okay, so likely, again, if you put in a 5-way structure, seems to be completed. Okay, this is on Aussie, yeah? Aussie index. Yeah, so likely this may come down and retest this zone, right? If you can't put a fit, is somewhere around that 5618. Okay, so that's my take on Aussie. Okay. Yeah. Tian says Aussie New Zealand looks good if can get the RBNZ to fill that trade tomorrow. Yeah, probably, right? Because we have RBNZ as well, so that might start to create a little bit of a divergence or deviation between the Aussie and the New Zealand, and likely if the New Zealand strengthen more, then of course that will push this down, right? So potentially a breakout trade, but of course pay attention to potential slippages as well during the release of RBNZ. Okay, Euro Kiwi looking for a sell on the H1. Yeah, I think this here short term definitely a potential sell trade. Because from a higher time frame, I'm looking at it from the angle of, okay, this may have completed a tree and therefore short term this may pull back, right? So in the H1, if you're looking at the sell trade here, yeah, I would say if you're short term, you know, the best trade would either be here or of course the breakout. Now that it's moving down, maybe you want to wait for this to maybe break it and then retrace, and then you enter the retracement, right? Maybe that would be a little bit better. Okay, but I would say overall direction on the Euro New Zealand is definitely more of a short-term downside right now, right? Expecting kind of the pullback. Okay, kind of the pullback. Good. Okay, FTSE. Okay, need a bit of an update since we last talked about it. Okay, let me just clean up. Right, so I think we kind of managed to do a clean break above this structure here with momentum, right? So obviously we're going to be focusing more on the upside from where we are right now. Okay, so very quick reference, we tagged the 50% mark. Okay, I think this would be very much similar to S&P. Okay, similar in a way. You know, ideally we want to see a little bit more of a pullback, right? So ideally something like this. That would be ideal, right? Yeah. So I would say bullish, but you want to give it a little bit more time and see if it does a obvious pullback as a correction first. Okay, so this is my take on FTSE. Okay, German DAX. Here. Yeah, quite similar, right? I think the developed markets in terms of S&P, German DAX, FTSE, very kind of similar idea that I'm looking at. Okay, we're gonna see some kind of a corrective pullback. Okay, yeah. So generally, you can see S&P more or less the same thing, right? This one here as well as the FTSE. Generally, that's the take. Okay, so those are for developed markets. I think just now we talked about the Asian markets, right? Kind of similar overall, except for Aussie. Okay, yeah, the Aussie index pattern looks very different from the rest. So this one here we may have a deeper pullback. Okay, but the rest of the index, the general outlook here is a pullback, but after which it's going to be bullish. Okay. Swiss yen, I think there's a little bit more downside here. This looks very corrective overall. Okay, this looks corrective overall. So I think that is that short-term potential downside. But short-term, right? Because if the market comes down and hits this, you probably don't want to be selling it after that, right? You want to take profit and see how it goes and react. Okay. Nikkei. Okay, Nikkei looks pretty straightforward for me. I would want to see the market come down a little bit more and react off that, right? It may actually break that as well, but that can be a potential fake break because then we'll be looking at this structure here, right? So you have that impulsive move. This may be an expanding structure for upside. Yeah, so that's my take on Nikkei, right? So not the clearest. I think you just want to be patient right now. I think nothing much this week. You want to wait for the market to come back and see how the reaction that is, right? Then we'll only make the decision. Okay, so that's my primary take on the Nikkei side of things. Oh. Hey, yeah, so generally that's from my side. Okay, yeah. Let's see how it goes. Cool. Okay, so I hope things giving you an idea from today's session, giving you an idea of an overall of the week. Okay. So kind of before we wrap up the session, very quickly share with you guys and of course update you guys as well. Some of you are already familiar with this. If you are very new to everything trading, you can actually go over to the website everythingtrading.com. Let me just show you how it looks like. Okay. Never mind. I'll just retype. Okay. You go to everythingtrading.com. This is how it looks like. If you have yet to register for an account, you can click sign up, follow the process, and then you can register for a new account. If you already have an account, you can always log in. Okay, let me very quickly show you. Okay, so once you log in, you actually end up on your dashboard. This is how it looks like, right? And for me, I'm running live session every Wednesday and Thursday, right? So no, sorry. Oh yes, Wednesday and Thursday. So Wednesday I'm running it in Chinese, in Mandarin. Okay, and on Thursday we're running it in English. Okay, so inside this portal you'll be able to find some resources as well if you're new in trading. There are some tools that you can also check it out, right? And of course education webinars you can go in as well. Okay. Yeah, so for those of you are fairly new, just head over to everythingtrading.com, register for an account, and then go and explore the content inside. Good. Okay, so if nothing else, generally that's all from my side. Okay, let's see how the market's gonna develop for today, for the week, and all the best to everyone who's trading. Okay, and I'll see you guys next session. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.